if there were rendered on your advance payment mechanism, the Attorney Del Rosario then at first said that there was none. But eventually, he changed his answer saying that there was. Ano? Tinitingnan po namin lahat yung journal ng mga sinasabi niyo rito. Can you provide the committee with that legal opinion and read some highlights of it so that the others who are watching or listening to this hearing will be apprised as well? Kasi po, meron kayong hinihingi. Sige po. Kasi,
May I respond, Mr. President?
uh,
Provider payment mechanisms. PhilHealth is a healthcare financing institution. We are a social health insurance agency. Social health insurance is one way of financing healthcare. And the financing healthcare on the part of PhilHealth is through the provider payment mechanisms. And the law provides.
sandali lang mo. Sandali
I'm sorry.
lang mo.
Go ahead, sir.
Opinion po nyo ba yan o anong base?
No, sir.
yung
This is
para
based
sabihin?
on the charter of the corporation and the subsequent amendments to the National Health Insurance Act. So, if you can get an expert on healthcare financing, if you must. But if you want to listen, Mr. President, I am the Committee on Legislation Chair of PhilHealth. I've been working with your fellow senators and your staff pertaining to the Universal Healthcare Act. You may not know me because I'm working on the sidelines. Ano po? So the healthcare financing mechanism, one of the forms of healthcare financing is social health insurance. That's where PhilHealth comes in. And PhilHealth finances healthcare through the development of provider payment mechanisms. And the law provides, as yung provider payment mechanisms po, iba-iba po yan. Meron po tayong case rate system, meron po tayong fee for service, meron po tayong capitation. Capitation is a prospective payment mechanism. During the deliberations on the Universal Healthcare Act, the legislators decided that it is best for PhilHealth to adopt prospective payment mechanisms. This is also an anti-fraud strategy for the corporation. So, nandun na po yung advance, ayun, meron po tayong global budget. Nandun na po yung capitation pa rin at yung provider case payment mechanism, ay yung case rate. But the law enjoins us to shift to diagnostic-related groups. So this is the reason, Mr. President, that the Congress and the Senate, both houses of Congress and the President to the Executive, decided to amend the composition of the PhilHealth Board. If you must notice, the PhilHealth Board is now composed of healthcare financing experts, supposedly. And they are there to understand. No? They understand the healthcare financing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
With the indulgence of
may I ask
Senator
the-
Tolentino, go ahead.
resource person to refrain from lecturing this Senate panel because we already know that this committee is part of the Congress crafted that law that you're trying to explain. So, to abbreviate that, you answer directly the question propounded by the Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just giving a background on
Mr.
the
President,
answer that I'm trying
may-
to.
The Vice Chairman is recognized.
yes, let's go to specifics, Attorney Del Rosario. You're
Yes, sir.
citing the law, no?
Opo,
But lahat ng batas, implementing guidelines, implementing rules and regulations.
that is correct.
Ang tanong ni Senate President, ano naging basis sa issuance noong IRM? Kasi for every circular issued by PhilHealth, meron pinanggagalingan yan. Specifically for Ondoy, for Marawi, for Yolanda, for Taal. And recently, and the latest, itong COVID-19. Ano naging basis noong Circular 2020-0007?
Mr. President, the basis of our circulars is a board resolution
Yes.
passed by the
As in,
PhilHealth Board.
sandali.
Go ahead, sir.
As in, do sa Yolanda may board resolution. Ondoy, circular, may board resolution. And so forth and so on. Now, what is the board resolution that was issued or ratified or adopted by the board to authorize the issuance of memorandum of PhilHealth Circular 2020-0007?
Sir, I don't remember
I'll tell you, kasi tinanong ko si Corsec Mangawang, yung board resolution PBR 2515, which we even issued a subpoena ducis tecum, di ba? Now, I will ask you now, kasi yun ang naging basis ng issuance noong 2020-0007, dated March 20, 2020, correct?
I'm not,
No,
I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yung circular ng PhilHealth 2020-0007 is dated March 20, 2020. Tama? Legal counsel, if he doesn't want.
That is correct, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Now, what is the basis, what is the board resolution that served as the basis for the issue circular 2020-007? Attorney Labe, 2515, hindi ba? Okay. Anong date ng 2515? Andito, pinasubpina namin sa inyo eh. 2515 is dated March 31, 2020. Paano nauna pa yung karitela sa kabayo? Ang umihila sa karitela, in this case, is the board resolution dated March 31, 2020. Because when I asked Jonathan Mangawang, kung kasi meron akong pinakitang unnumbered board resolution dated, yun nga, March 31, 2020. Sabi niya, that is the same board resolution being referred to as yung board resolution 2515 signed by 7 members of PhilHealth Board. Now, paano nauna pa yung IRM circular for COVID-19 pinadated March 20, samantalang yung board resolution ratifying the implementation or the issuance of that circular March 31. Yes, Corsec.
Thank you, Mr. President and Mr. Senator. On January,
No, sagutin mo lang, tanong ko muna, paano nauna yung circular kaysa sa board resolution?
Mr. Senator, there is actually another PBR which was also submitted
Oh, where is that?
to the Senate, and that number is PBR 2496.
2496 refers to Taal.
No, sir, 2496 series of 2020. The title is Resolution Approving the Inclusion of IRM among the special privileges that may be conferred during fortuitous events and emergencies.
Yeah, pero
Mr.
para
Senator.
yun yung board resolution para doon sa Taal IRM. Not for this particular case because walang board resolution at the time that you released the circular para sa COVID-19. Ang ginamit yung reference, yung para sa Taal, which is not supposed to be the case because, di ba, for every fortuitous event, wala pa nga tayo doon sa COVID-19 because that's another issue altogether. Because pag sinabing fortuitous event, acts of God or acts of man, di ba? Sandali lang, attorney. Ang tanong ko lang, anong basis ng Circular 0007, Series of 2020, di ba yung board resolution ng just for this particular circular, which is 2515?
Mr. Senator, may I answer?
Sige.
As I mentioned earlier, the board approved on January 28, 2020, January 30, 2020, PBR number 2496, series of 2020. This includes IRM among the special privileges that may be adopted or conferred during fortuitous events and emergencies. There's a necessity to approve this PBR because in previous instances when IRM was utilized for Yolanda, Marawi, etc., the board always issues a PBR for the release of IRM to specific calamity or fortuitous events. So the management requested on January 30, 2020 to include the IRM among the special privileges to be conferred to healthcare providers to ensure that our members will continue to have access to healthcare services. And so when the IRM for COVID-19 was issued or implemented by management, despite the authority given under January 30 PBR 2.96, the management deemed it proper to submit to the board or for ratification the use of IRM for COVID during COVID pandemic because of the magnitude of the amount, Mr. Chair, Mr. President.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you, Mr. President.
Yes. If, kung tama yung sinasabi ninyo na covered na yun nung January resolution nyo, ba't inulit nyo pa ng March?
If, Mr. President.
After we have already used it as the legal basis.
Mr. President, Mr. Senator,
Ah.
as mentioned in our, as indicated, stated in the minutes of the meeting on March 31, it was because of the magnitude of the amount to be released that the management deemed it proper to seek ratification or confirmation by the board of the releases of the IRM. In fact, when it was presented on March 31, there were already releases made to government and private facilities.
Attorney, ang 1 peso at saka 1 billion, pareho rin yun eh. Yun ang pananaw ng mga kababayan natin eh. So hindi ganun kadali yun eh. Yung legal opinion na sinasabi ninyo, now, that you have presented to this committee before and you are now saying, and Attorney Dalusario also saying, ang tingin po namin tuloy, talaga, we can only surmise that there is really something wrong with this IRM or interim reimbursement mechanism. Kahit hindi po abogado ang tumingin, I'm certain that the COVID-19 cannot be equated to Ondoy and Marawi siege, you know, and other healthcare, no. There were actual losses experienced by the hospitals and other healthcare institutions due to the fortuitous events na sinatawag, during the two instances. Kaya yung real sense of reimbursement, pwede talaga. However, the current implementation of your RM, advance payment for COVID-19 affected hospitals, is another thing. Yun po ang punto eh. Now, we agree that the intent of the IRM is notable, but it won't stop the Senate from casting doubt dahil dito sa mga nakikita natin yan. Now, with that, how did the board come up with the amount of 27 billion as the fund allotted or allocated for the IRM? Dr. Susie Magado.
Thank you, Mr. President. The board did not come up with that amount. I have here an email from the corporate secretary on March 20 that is informing us that PhilHealth will be using the IRM mechanism and that 20 released to accredit the healthcare facilities. And the IRM was initially extended during Yolanda, Marawi, and Taal, and that the PCO will seek ratification of the application of this measure. So this was on March 20. So in fact, Mr. President, we were not the ones who initiated this. We were informed that this was the decision.
In other words, it did not come from the board.
No, sir.
The 27 billion.
No, sir.
Isinubo sa inyo.
Yes,
Na
sir.
ganun daw yung gagamitin.
Yes, sir.
All right. And again, where did this come from?
Sir, this is an email coming from the corporate secretary on March 20. And then this was also followed,
Attorney Del Rosario's office.
no, from,
Attorney Mangawan.
yes.
Okay.
And then, sir, there was a March 27 memo, which is OPCO Memorandum 2020-003, which was for the board, which stated that there was already this IRM mechanism.
The Vice Chair?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. In other words, what you're saying, Dr. Susi, is that walang authorization from the board yung March 20, 2020 issuance, yung IRM 2020-0007, walang authority from the board.
There was a board meeting, I'm not sure what date the board meeting was, where it was discussed, but We were informed. This was
Only
not,
informed.
we were just informed and we were asked to endorse it.
And you were asked to endorse, but you did not ratify or adopt a resolution because the board resolution came after.
Yes, sir, that is
Yeah.
correct.
So walang authorization from the board yung IRM yung circular 0007 dated March 20. You were just informed
Yes, sir.
that they would implement.
Yes,
That's
sir.
another thing, sa implementation. We noticed na yung past issuances, Mr. President, if I may, yung date ng implementation or dissemination comes immediately after the issuance. Can you flash on the screen? Past issuances, pagka yung either on the same date or the day after, lumalabas yung dissemination or yung implementation. Pero in this particular case, it came a month after yung dissemination. April 22 na disseminate. Yung IRM, yung 0007, March 20. Now, in an effort to justify the date, in-antedate nila to March 21. But the date of the dissemination was on April 22. Kasi marami na silang releases, prior to March 31, board resolution, yung 2515, nakapag-release na yung PhilHealth ng 703 million pesos. Actually, 703,661,648.79. And then, prior to April 22, ang na-release, ang fund releases na ng PhilHealth, mas malaki pa, umabot na ng 9.29 or 9.3 billion pesos. So, in effect, hindi pa na-disseminate. Ang tanong ko ngayon, Mr. President, anong guidelines meron yung mga magre-release ng pondo, yung mag-i-implement, yung regional vice presidents, kung wala pang nai-issue yung implementing guidelines or what they call SOP? Kasi nag-i-issue sila ng SOP, nandun yung parameters, nandun yung guidelines, how to disperse, how to make a list, how to, all the guidelines are there. So how could they release without implementing guidelines or what they call SOP? That's my question, Mr. President. Thank you.
And who would like to answer that question?
Mr. Chairman,
What would have justified the release of 703 million and 9.3 billion?
Mr. President, may I?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the Senate. As a background, in January 2020, we were in a state of anxiety because we knew that COVID was coming. We knew how it hit the other countries. And so we were in a state of panic. So we wanted to be preemptive, to take preemptive measures. To be able to prepare our hospitals to respond to this pandemic, which we did not know at that time how soon, how hard, and how long it was going to hit us. Now, the computation of the board, of course, has to rely on management for figures because the figures lies with management. And the algorithm we adopted was to use the 90-day historical claim of the hospitals as the basis for the IRM allocation. So it is not arbitrary. And what we wanted to achieve was to prepare all the regions, the provinces, and the cities with a COVID war chest that would prepare them to respond to the pandemic. Now, in the administration of this effort, there were some, I must admit, some expedients that had to be adopted because hindi ho natin alam kung gaano katindi ang dagok nitong COVID. Nagmamadali kami makarelease ng pera. But we made sure that all the releases were covered by a contract and that we would be able to account for all the funds that were available. We were getting a lot of uh, rescue entreaties from hospitals that they had to buy PPEs, they had to buy disinfectants, they were worried about their workforce. So yun ho yung sitwasyon early this year when all this was happening. Ang intention ho ng PhilHealth ay maunahan ho yung COVID, yung drama ho ng pandemic. Yun po.
Thank you. That is a federal attack dahil naunahin yung DOH na naging alarmado kayo. Nauna pa kayo sa DOH ng January. That's good. But may I ask, Member Kabati, was that the intention in January when you passed that? Yung 2496?
Sir, in January, as far as I recall, we were not talking about COVID yet.
O yun nga sinasabi. Attorney Kabading? How about you? You were there. Board member Kabading? Yes, he's logged in. Anyway,
Mr. President, with the indulgence of our colleagues, kasi pinasa natin yung Bayanihan Act to Heal as Act 1, March 24. Naunahan pa nila tayo na magbibigay tayo ng authorization or authority to the President to realign budgets and so forth and so on. As early as January, na-foresee na nila na i-address na nila yung pandemic. Yung unang kaso sa Pilipinas, I remember yung Wuhan couple. I think that was March or February yata yun eh. Naunahan pa nila yung unang-unang COVID case. In-anticipate nyo na. Thank you, Mr. President.
yes, Attorney Kabading, Board member Kabading, are you able to answer already before I... Otherwise, I'll recognize the minority leader first. Go ahead.
Minority leader first. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kabading, for recognizing the minority leader. That is the role of the Senate President. Anyway, I just, with the indulgence of my colleagues, just on that point that that the Senate President and Senator Lacson brought up, which I cannot let pass. As an excuse, Mr. Morales said that in mid-January, they were in a state of panic because of the COVID-19, which they said they were not sure that's why they had to build a war chest and wanted to take preemptive measures. Now, obviously, this is an excuse, Mr. President, because your Secretary of Health, who is the president of, or is the chairman of PhilHealth, did not do anything until mid-March. He was even saying that do not panic. And yet, an agency under the Department of Health was already panicking, if we are to believe them. So obviously, Mr. President, this is an excuse which should not be allowed to stand, unchallenged. We believe that something was wrong with the IRM, and the excuses now given are nothing but excuses trying to cover up. So thank you, Mr. President. Sorry for interrupting.
All right, Attorney Kabading, you heard the statements.
Mr. Chair, good morning sa lahat. This is one of the anxieties being part of the members of the board. Yang IRM na yan, I'm so uncomfortable giving out money in advance. Like putting your foot ahead of the fire there as an accountant. And then I suspect, just like that come out in the hearing last time, that a favoritism that is actually that I heard actually being told by some employees that there are favoritism in this release of IRM. If you look at the
Attorney Kabading, answer the question first. We can go to that later on.
Yeah.
In January, during the board meetings or the talks, as mentioned also by board member Mercado, was this the intention of it 2469,
Coming,
2496?
hello, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, yes.
You are referring to the PBR for RIM?
Yes. January, meron kayong board resolution 2496. Ang sinasabi ng presidente, yung COVID daw ito, pinaghandaan nyo na. Ang sabi ng isang board member ay hindi nyo napapag-usapan ng COVID itong board resolution na ito. Ikaw, ano ba ang intindi mo nung pinapasa ninyo ito?
Na, January? I
Yes.
could not subscribe with that. We don't talk about it. Kung yun ang sinasabi niya.
You did not talk about it in the board, yung COVID.
Yeah, by January, none of that sort, Mr. Chair.
All right. Again, back to my question then, Attorney Mangawan.
Yes,
How did you come up with the 27 billion allocated for IRM?
Mr. President, that can be answered by our finance people. But let me just inform the Senate, Mr. President, that on January 30, 2020 board meeting where the PBR 2496 was approved, the board was discussing, in fact, the COVID. That was the first day, that was the time when the DOH announced the first case of COVID in the Philippines. In fact, there was a PBR 2497 that was approved also by the board on January 30, 2020, providing 1,000 package for isolation. And I remember that the secretary had to rush back to DOH for the announcement that of the first COVID patient case in the Philippines, Mr. President.
Sir, Dr. Jimenez, you're seeking the floor. Why? Go ahead. Baka mabigyan mo kami ng linaw dahil nalalabo ang kami dito. Mr. Jimenez, go ahead. Please unmute your computer. If you can hear me, please unmute your computer. All right, go ahead now.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead. What were you were raising your hand?
No, sir. Sorry po.
Okay, sige. We don't have anything to say. Let me continue.
Meron po, pero other time na po, sa mga sunod na po.
We're still in the issue of sige. It was discussed during the last hearing. Who's raising his hand?
Mr. Vargas, sir.
Mr. Vargas?
Yes, sir. Sir, if I may just be allowed to read the whereas in the board resolution 2496, just to clarify.
Hmm. What?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the fifth whereas, in order that it can provide quick and timely response to the healthcare needs of PhilHealth members and their dependents, as well as ensure the financial viability of healthcare institutions in affected areas, the management recommended that the IRM be included among the that may be fortuitous events and emergencies. Wherefore, premises considered, the board resolves, as it is hereby resolved, to approve the inclusion of IRM among the special privileges that may be conferred during the fortuitous events and emergencies, thereby amending Resolution 1848, series of 2013 for the purpose.
Mr. Pargas, kung kasintindi ng COVID ang pinag-uusapan nyo, ilalagay nyo rito yung COVID, hindi lang fortuitous events. Ano, sanay kami sa gawa ng resolution dito. Never mind. May I proceed, no? It was discussed last hearing how the amount of the IRM was released to each healthcare institution. Its HCI is being computed. However, the IRM fund released to the healthcare institution, as revealed by General Morales during the last hearing, could possibly be more than the actual COVID-related expenses that PhilHealth should be paying these institutions. General Morales added that the excess of this IRM or IRM fund meant for COVID-19, instead of being returned, will now under their regular benefit payments. Now, allow me, para malinaw, ito yung mga sinabi ninyo. Allow me to read the transcript. Senator Po, okay. So, ang ibig sabihin nito, sinasabi ninyo na kung sakasakali nga at makikitang hindi nagastos yung pera, ay dapat ibalik pa ito sa PhilHealth? Mr. Morales, hindi ho. Ang ililiquidate ho nila dyan, yung ibang benefit payments na. Kasi yung IRM ho is historical claim worth 90 days. So yun ang nagde-determine kung magkano ang due sa hospital. Jackson and then, Mr. Morales. So kung mag-account sila magkano yung kanilang COVID claims at natapos na ho yung pandemic at hindi na nila magagamit sa COVID yun, doon na nila kukunin yung mga ibang regular benefit claims, doon na nila ililiquidate. Now, my question is, does PhilHealth have the power to grant advance payment to those institutions claiming their regular benefits or those non-COVID related or non-COVID-19 related claims? Wala, hindi po ba? As I earlier established in my question, you are an insurance company. You indemnify when there is already a loss. Kaya ang normal na procedure nyo ay magsasubmit muna ng mga dokumento ang isang ospital, saka ninyo babayaran. Kaya nga po ang laki pa ng payables ninyo sa mga ospital, hindi po ba? General Morales.
Opo.
Oh, so hindi po ba ang purpose ng IRM, particularly on what we are discussing now, ay para sa COVID-19 related claims lang dapat? Again, dahil sa ganitong paraan ng liquidation na sinabi ninyo noon, napapalawak na naman ang implementasyon ng IRM. Na kahit hindi na related ng COVID-19, eh supposedly claim ng isang ospital, nabibigyan sila ng advance payment. And again, this is beyond your power. Can you comment again, General Morales?
Opo. Sa kasalukuyan po, hindi pa ho natin alam kung tapos na ho ang pandemic. O yung isang area ho na mababa yung incidence ay hindi na ho sila magkakaroon ng COVID. So, yun ho ang aming pananaw na habang hindi pa ho natatapos ito, minabuti namin na nandun muna yung pondo sa kanila at yun naman ho ay i-liquidate nila pagdating ng panahon.
Mr. President.
Yes, Attorney Dalton.
Thank you, Mr. President. We maintain that the corporation, based on the provisions of our charter, is empowered to pass a provider payment mechanism such as the IRM. And we share this with our board members who approve this type of financing, Mr. President. We have to understand that the role of PhilHealth in all these particular problem of pandemic. The PhilHealth is also affected. Our workforce is also affected, no? So may mga alternative work arrangements po tayo, tapos hindi po lahat ng ating information system ay establisado para makapaprocess ng claim remotely. So the payment of claims will certainly be reduced, and the financing of the healthcare services in the entire country will be affected. So this is a risk that the PhilHealth Board has take. Ngayon, doon sa mga sinasabi na may mga pinapaboran, ilabas po natin kung ano po yun, sino po yung mga pinaboran, at bakit, anong basis na pinaboran po sila. Kasi kung ang basis lang po, ng legal basis lang po ng IRM, matatag po yung legal basis ng IRM. Dahil kailangan po ito ng mga pagamutan po natin. Tapos sinasabi natin para lang po sa mga COVID patients, hindi po totoo na sila lang po ang apektado. Apektado po yung mga buntis, apektado po yung mga dialysis patients. So, sir, I hope that the Senate will be more appreciative of this particular design to healthcare sector. This is the role of PhilHealth, Mr. President.
Magkaibang perspective yung sinasabi ninyo. Nevertheless, sige, if you insist that you have legal basis for that and everything, that is the reason also for this inquiry. Because this is in aid of legislation, we will cut that off. No, when we amend the PhilHealth law para mas malinaw.
Thank you, sir.
Linawin natin kung anong pwede ninyo at hindi. Dahil meron kayong interpretasyon na pwede na hindi naman pwede. Pananagutan nyo din naman yan. Sige, let's see. All right, may Attorney Kate, go ahead.
Sir, with regards to IRM, sir, it is a reimbursement mechanism by the name itself, interim, temporary reimbursement. You have to reimburse.
Yes, we established that earlier, yes.
Sir, and a mechanism. Sir, ignorance of the law excuses no one from compliance. However, they are not ignorant. They have deliberately, on the point of view of anti-fraud legal officer, they are not ignorant. They deliberately used the policy as a defense. And I have shown to you before a deferment of interim reimbursement mechanism. As a criminal lawyer, this is a defense already. However, it also shows that it is a conspiracy document. Another one is liquidation interim optional signed by the EVP President, Arnel De Jesus, that it would only be optional. Why should they do that? Because it should be, the first policy, it should be fully liquidated. And it was published. The memorandum circular that was mentioned a while ago, the first policy, they have effectively amended that one by issuing a memorandum. This memorandum was not even published. Memorandum dated June 16, 2020, signed by the President and Chief Executive Officer, Brigadier General Ricardo Morales. So they cannot amend a circular which was already published. So working with the IRM, no withholding of taxes. If we will not withheld a tax, it is already a criminal and administrative liability under the tax law. So the amount that was not withheld is this 298 million plus. I think that is the amount. So that is already way above 50 million. The IRM 14.9 billion. If you did not packet it, but you have lost the money. If you have under revised penal code, you have malversed it. But in this special law, you have embezzled it. You have put it to a different direction. You have to. There must be a claim first. There must be a claim first. But that's why I'm pointing out to these documents, because they are just deliberately using policies to defend themselves, just like what Dennis Mas did in the Wellmed case. He used the policy to exonerate Ispargas. So I have found out this. They have been trying to help each other. The modus operandi of the PhilHealth Mafia Untouchables is compartmentalization and complementary. Compartmentalized because the other department will not know what they are doing, but when they have a problem, they will help each other. That's why I brought out the Balanga case so that I can show you how they help each other and how they cover up the cases. Thank you, sir.
All right, the minority leader is recognized.
Yeah, just two brief points. Number one, in the previous hearing, we asked if there was a legal opinion rendered to justify the IRM. So may we know if this was submitted? Number two, may we ask that board resolution number 2496 was enacted, and this was in January, be submitted by the corporate secretary. And number three, may we request our resource persons and a reminder that this is not a court of law. Please do not argue your legal points. Just tell us what the facts are. We understand your legal points, but this is a hearing in aid of legislation and not therefore rendered or put on record, which are really for a court of law, should not be presented as it will only lengthen these proceedings. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator Vilon. And besides, I have a series of questions still, but I will forego with this because I think I've already established what I want to find out. And it's quite clear at this point. So may we now call on Senator Velasco, the Vice Chairman, to you have your 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Anyway, this was discussed already. I would have picked up from where we left off last Tuesday, yung tungkol kay Corsec Mangawang, but this has been adequately discussed, and it has been established that the board was not aware last January 30, 2020, that the IRM or the board resolution that they were adopting would address the pandemic. As a matter of fact, yung Wuhan couple, nagbiyahe from Dumaguete to Manila, January 21. So maski nga si Secretary Duque, hindi niya pa alam na meron tayong hinaharap na pandemic. And yet, PhilHealth insisting na inuunahan pa nila, pinipreempt na nila. So anyway, that has been clearly established in our discussion. So enough of that. I'd like to address my question to General De Villa, if he is around.
Yes, General De Villa is supposed to be virtually present.
General De Villa? In the meantime, that we're waiting to General De Villa, I'm just curious, what's the real reason President resignation?
Sir, kung mamarapatin niyo po, meron akong parang ginawang na makakasagot po dun sa mga yung aking mga tanong po sa akin. Kung pwede pong basahin ko po.
Sige, but bago kayo recognize the Senate President na magbigay ng opening statement, pakisagot lang muna yung tanong ko. Ano talaga yung totoong dahilan kayo nag-resign? Kasi nabigla rin nag-resign kayo.
Honorable Senator, Mr. Vice Chairman, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Dr. Augustus De Villa na voluntaryong humarap sa inyo upang bigyan linaw ang usapin sa abot ng aking makakaya. Ako ay kasama ninyo sa advokasya na linisin ang katiwalian sa PhilHealth. Mayroon po akong tatlong dahilan sa pagbibitiw. Unang dahilan po, at ito po ay na-discuss ko po kay Presidency o General Morales. Ako po ay nagdesisyon na simulan ang matagal ko na naantala po sa buhay na makasama ang pamilya ko. Pagkatapos po ng 30 taon na tapat na serbisyo sa Armed Forces of the Philippines under the Medical Corps. At yun po ay natapos ng ako po yung nagretiro nung July 31, 2019. So effective August 2019 po, ako po'y retirado na. Matagal ko rin pong hindi masyadong nakasama yung pamilya ko. Ako po'y single parent kasi ang asawa ko po'y namatay na ng mahigit 13 taon na nakakaraan at yun po ay dahil sa breast cancer. Ako po'y may 3 anak na babae. Ito po ay talagang pinapangarap ko nung nasa aktibong service ako, makasama po sila. But fortunately or unfortunately, ako po ay nakapagtrabaho uli makalipas ng 1 buwan sa PhilHealth. That was starting September 2019 at ito po ay under a job order po ng 2 buwan at po nakapag regular employee po starting October 27, 2019 hanggang mag-resign po ako last Thursday. So yun po, talagang gusto ko pong gugulin yun sa pamilya ko. May ikalawa po akong dahilan sa aking pagbibitiw. Ito po ay dahil sa isa na rin akong senior citizen na may konting comorbidity po, high blood po ako, ay vulnerable din ako mahawa sa virus na ito. Ang ginugol ko po talagang pagtatrabaho sa PhilHealth ay Monday to Friday. Hindi ko po inisip yung pandemic at gusto ko po talagang makapagserbisyo para sa taong bayan natin. At bilang isang doktor, masasabi ko po na ang pandemya na ito ay totoo at mapanganib. So yun po yung ikalawa. Yung ikatlo ko pong dahilan sa pagbibitiw, ang huli at ikatlong dahilan ng aking pagbibitiw ay sa kadahilanan ng delikadesa po. Ako po ay sa taong marangal, mayroong dignidad at integridad, malinis po ang aking konsyensya, at naniniwala ako na hindi ako babagay na magsilbi pa sa isang ahensya ng gobyerno na punong-puno ng alegasyon ng korupsyon at katiwalian. Ako po ay naniniwala na meron ngang katotohanan, sinadya man o hindi, at ito po ay base sa mga lumalabas na pagsusuri at lalong-lalo na po nung Martes, nung unang hearing po. Mr. President, when I joined PhilHealth last year, I promised myself then that in 1 year, I and my esteemed senior brother in the AFP, now PhilHealth President CEO Jel Morales, we would be able to put things right in PhilHealth. But unfortunately, I was wrong. As we now have to grapple with the sad spectacle of alleged anomalies being unearthed in this investigation in the Senate and in the House of the President, of the Representatives. Mr. President, it was not a painful decision to break from my colleagues in PhilHealth. I learned from my training that the honorable thing to do in a crisis where the honor of the institution you serve is under attack. My decision is to step aside and work from the vantage point to salvage the honor of the institution which is PhilHealth. Sa issue po ng korupsyon, mafia at sindikato ay matagal na nating naririnig bago pa po ako pumasok sa PhilHealth. Dahil dito, ang makakapagpatunay na lang ng mga dapat maipatupad para matapos ang lahat ng aligasyon ay yung mga nakakaalam at lalabas para patunayan yung mga aligasyon. Para sa akin, kung mapapatunayan po, ang may kasalanan ay dapat maparusahan. Subalit ang mga walang kasalanan ay malayang makapagpatuloy ng matapat na trabaho. Salamat po.
Gerald de Villa.
Sir, Mr. Vice
Sabi niyo out
Chairman
of office kasi nga sa dami ng mga corruption allegations administration. Wala kayong sinabi. Gusto lang namin marinig, ano yung umabot sa kaalaman niyo bilang Senior Vice President for Operations, hindi po ba? SVP Operations, that you were acting or OIC, EVP?
Nag-acting po ako EBP and COO simula po nung November 4, 2019 hanggang ano po, April 26. April 27 po, nagpalit na po kami ni Sir Arnel De Jesus at siya na po yung hindi acting, siya na po yung EBP CO.
Yeah. Ano yung mga anomalyang pag-allocate nung nandun bilang acting EVP and later on as SVP?
Sir, pasensya na po, nagpuputol-putol kasi. Yung mga natutunan na
Sinabi nyo,
yes, sir.
kayo out of delicadeza. Dahil may katotohanan yung napapag-usapang na korupsyon, nakatiwalian sa PhilHealth. Hindi kayo po nagbigay ng mga specifics. Gusto namin marinig from you, directly from you, ano yung mga particular instances na merong katotohanan yung mga aligasyon ng korupsyon sa PhilHealth.
Sir, ang naririnig ko po na talagang alam ko po na at narinig ko po 'yon. Ang isa lang po ay yung sa isa po dun yung tungkol diyan sa IRM at meron daw diyan corruption, allegation of corruption. Yung tungkol po dun sa OFW na issue, yung tungkol po dun sa all case rate na issue, yung tungkol daw po dun sa COVID testing rates na issue rin, tungkol po dun sa information technology or IT, dun po sa mga unresolved administrative cases po, meron din daw doon na aligasyon at yung questionable financial statement, meron din po ako na narinig po doon at nalaman na hindi naman aligasyon din po yon at meron din po mga flawed and leak internal process. Ano po ito? Nalaman ko po talaga ito na nakarating sa akin sa mga meeting po namin sa Execom. I am a member of the Execom since nung November po, nung na-designate po ako na acting EVP COO. Ito po ay ako po dahil nga po sa bago ako, talagang pinakikinggan ko ang lahat po ng diskusyon namin sa Execom at pag uwi ko at nagre-research din ako, nag-aaral po ako. Ako po ay 30 taon na sa AFP bilang isang medical officer. At ang exposure ko po ay kadalasan po ay dun sa ospital. Hospital administration and operation, being a medical officer. Naging po ako dun sa mga polisiya ng medical nung naging the Surgeon General po ako nung 2018 po. 2018 hanggang 2019 ako po yung naging 2017 to 2018 po, ako yung naging Surgeon General ng AFP. Hanggang sa naging AFP Health Service Commander po ako, yung sa Viluna po, ay isa sa mga medical center na nasa ilalim ko po. Yun po, bumalik po ako sa parang operational side ng medical services ng AFP. So, ako po talaga nakikinig lang diyan sa mga at naririnig ko yung mga issue yan. Kung paano patunayan, yung po ibang ang pwede po talaga makasagot kung ay mga nag-a-allege at At ako naman po ay napaka open naman po yung mind ko, and I always listen to everything kung ano po yung Ang nga lang tagay, kung may ebidensya po, wala naman pong sinabi ko nga po dun sa statement ko kanina, na ako'y advokasya na laban sa katiwalian. At kung meron tong talagang makakapagpatunay at meron tayong mapipinpoint na may kasalanan, ay dapat parusahan. At kung yun namang mga taong wala namang kinalaman diyan at ay dapat makapagpatrabaho pa po. Napakalaki po ng ng papel ng PhilHealth sa Filipino people, sa taong bayan in terms of health financing. Kailangan po talaga natin ng suporta. Ako po at ang aking pamilya, umaasa rin po ako sa PhilHealth. Kasi pagka na-hospital tayo at saka talaga pong malaking tulong din ng PhilHealth. Yun lamang po, Mr. Vice Chairman po.
Yes, I'll invite your attention to your affidavit na sinabit mo sa Senado. Particularly paragraph 7. Pakibasa nyo nga. Kung may kopya ka ng affidavit ninyo.
Sir, ito po. ito po yung paragraph 7, meron po akong kopya ng affidavit. Ito po ay yung katanungan dun sa dun sa IT na dumaan po sa akin. Ito pong number 7. Our conversation on that day, to the best of my recollection, went this way. Si Colonel Laborte po nagpunta sa akin, dala yung bunch po ng kontrata na kailangan po ng PRO NCR. Sabi niya sa akin, sir, and I quote, "Sir, meron kayong pinirmahan dito, sobrang overpriced." Sabi ko, hindi ko napansin yan. Ni-refer ko naman sa office ng Corporate Legal Counsel, yung pong opisina po ni Attorney Robert Labe. Tapos sabi po sa akin ni Colonel Laborte, tingnan nyo sir, itong ginugol ko, talagang overpriced yan. Ang sagot ko naman po, Bal, naniniwala ako sa iyo dahil IT expert ka, hindi ko mapapayagan yan. Akin na yan, referring to the contract, sir. Tapos po, kung itutuloy ko lang po, yung number 8, after Mr. Laborte or Colonel Laborte handed over me the contract, dinetouch ko po yung page 3 ng kontrata na meron po nakalagay doon, yung pangalan kong may firma ko po na recommending approval. Ito po ay May 27. Yeah, May 27 po. May 27. Thereof, where I had previously signed and gave him back the rest of the contract. At saka sinabi ko pa po kay Mr. Laborte or Colonel Laborte, I recall telling him the following. At hindi na ako acting EVP COO. Hindi na ako ang pipirma dyan. Then I placed the detached page 3 of the contract inside my drawer. Mga ano po yun, mga more or less, mga 6 po yun. Yun po yung yung sinabi po ni Attorney Torson Kit ang punit po yung doon po sa dulo, tinanggal ko, dinetouch ko po, it's a 4-page contract, sir. Yun lamang po, sir.
So naniniwala kayong overpriced? I believe si Colonel Laborte is virtually Colonel Laborte.
Mr. President, and dear Senators, good morning. Good morning po.
Good morning, Colonel Laborte. Proceed from there.
Come again, sir.
Please proceed. Proceed ni General Media na kinol mo yung attention niya na overpriced yung IT procurement. So please proceed from there.
Can we ask?
Okay, sir.
Go ahead.
Opo, sir. I alerted po si General De Villa kasi po it is also my moral obligation na tingnan din kung disadvantageous ba sa gobyerno yung ating mga binibili. Familiar po kasi ako sa mga Cisco switches kasi dati po akong IT officer sa United Nations at graduate po ako ng Cisco Certified Network Associate. Yung binibili po namin is na-award na po ito 15 units, Cisco Catalyst 9200-2040. Isa lang po itong maliit na aparato, sir, na may 24 na butas. Ano lang po ito, sir, magaan lang But kaya nga buhatin ito, sir, ng 5 years old na bata. So bakit namin bibilihin ng 420,000? Ano ito, kotse? So yun ang sabi ko kay sir. Tapos ito, sir, sinerge ko ito sa itprice.com at saka sa switchrouter.com. Ito po mga ito ay mga ano po ito, sir, reputable IT store. So since yung item na yan, sir, is medyo luma na, sir, nag-depreciate na po yung kanyang price over time. So sa tingin ko po, sir, overpriced kasi 62,000 na po yung price niya noong May 21, sir, nung sinerge ko siya. So, dati po, siguro, medyo mahal ng konti. Pero hindi naman po aabot ng 420,000 yung original price niya. So, nung na-alert ko po si General De Villa, sabi niya po, palitan yung kanyang pangalan, since hindi na rin naman po siya ang AVP COO, at si Sir Arnel na po ang ilagay na name. So ako po, tinawag ko po yung end user sir at instructionan ko na you could use yung page na wala dito and replace yung name ni General De Villa to Sir Arnel. But for several months sir, hindi na po bumalik sa akin. So hinahanap ko na po. And before I left, hindi ko na po nakita sir. Hindi na po nila itinuloy sir.
Yes.
At nabalitaan ko na lang sir.
Aside from General De Villa, sino pa yung na-alert mo dito tungkol sa overpriced na IT equipment?
Sir, meron po akong memo kay General Morales. Nag-memo po ako kasi natusan niya po ako na mag-comment dito sa IAG-ICT report na kalalabas lang po. So, I did the report, sir, memo. I have three major findings, sir. Kasama na po ito yung mga overpricing at saka yung mga nawawalang mga hardware and software na hindi makita sa records. So, may recommendations din po ako doon tungkol sa mga ito, sir. At nabigay ko po ito sa kanya yung memo na ito, sir. At nag-usap po kami, sir, personal.
Ano action taken?
Pinaliwanag ko po.
What was the action taken by General Morales regarding your memo?
Alam po, I am also aware din naman po na pinag-uusapan din nila ito sa board, sir. So, sa akin po, sir, inihintay ko lang po siya, sir, kung ano ang, kung susundin niya recommendation ko. Kasi ang sa recommendation ko, sir, it should be investigated by a competent authority, investigating authority, yung Information Technology Audit Office ng COA at saka po ng DICT para po matuldukan na po itong mga itong allegations o ano man yung napa-find out namin at makamove na po yung mga IT projects here.
Narinig mo kanina yung presentation ni Ms. Aragona, hindi ba?
Opo, sir. Opo.
Okay. Meron siyang minention doon yung ang pinoprocure nila, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Aragona. Ang pinoprocure nyo pa yung 15 units, ang description po ninyo is Cisco 2960-XR24 port. Ito yung kasama dito sa yung na-abort na procurement dahil nga nagkaroon ng aberya. Can you confirm that, Ms. Aragona? Nasabi nyo hindi naman ganun talaga kamura kasi mahal sa merkado. You made mention, even in your press conference and now in your presentation, ito yung binanggit yung specs nitong pinoprocure. Can you confirm that?
Sir, yung kanina po sa presentation, yung Cisco 920 switches, yung lower than the network switches procured in 2019, which is the 2960. Ang sinasabi po namin, hindi siya comparable dun sa technical specification. Yung Cisco 92000 switches na release sa market noong November 28, introduced in the Philippines only in the first quarter of 2019. Kaya yung standard specs compliant to Cisco 2960, dual power includes 3-year warranty, plus cost of money, profit bot training. The amount po nun is 348.
Matanong ko lang po, ano yung pinoprocure nyo sana for 2020 or 2019? Yung nagkaroon ng back resolution pati award noong August 20 of 2019, last year lang. Ano yung mismo yung specification noong IT equipment, yung network switch na pinoprocure ninyo?
Sir, with your permission, sir, may I call my IPC, Alex Gabuya?
Ikaw nag-present kanina eh.
Yes po.
Kaya pakiconfirm mo lang kung if you were referring to Cisco 2960 XR24 port or alin sa dalawa bang pinoprocure ninyo? Kasi ang understanding ko, ito yung pinoprocure nyo last year na hindi natuloy.
Sir, yung 2960 po.
2960 XR24 port. Ito yung mahal.
2960 XR24.
Ito yung mahal.
Yes po.
Alam mo, I'm warning you, Ms. Argona, winarning nga kanina ni Senate President. Marunong kaming mag-counter-check. Ito yung binibili nyo last year, ha? I will repeat my question and be very careful in answering answer my question. Ang binibili nyo for last year's procurement, yung nagkaroon ng back resolution, ito yung Cisco 2960 XR24. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Colonel Laborte, kindly can you comment on that?
Sir, ma'am, hindi po yan yung binibili natin at yung award. Ang luma na po kasi yung 2960 HR. Nag-end of life support na po yan, tsaka end of sale service na po yan ng 2019. Ang current po na available ngayon is 9,200 po. Ito po yung binibili natin at na-award. Ito rin po yung sinertify ninyo. Mayroon po kayong signatures dito po, sir. Ma'am, ito po.
Sir, may I?
No, Ms. Aragona,
Yes po.
wag mong lokohin yung 24 senators. Madali kami mag-check eh.
Yeah,
Para ma-justify mo na mahal yung binibili mo, iniba mo yung specs, madali kami mag-check lang. Sinasabi ko sa iyo. Sinabi ko pa na as of August 5. Di ba? Pero end of sale na siya ng July eh. Ano ka bang bibili ng meron ng end of sale? Sabi nga ni Colonel Laborte, and I'd like him to expound on that, na kung end of sale, hindi na yan available sa market. Ba't ka pa mag-certify na as of August 5, yan ang presyo? Paano magkakapresyo yung end of sale ng July? That's why I warned you earlier because I might move to cite you in contempt of this committee for being evasive or lying to the committee.
Hindi po, sir.
Anong hindi? Sinabi mo na nga kanina eh. Repeatedly, I ask you, anong specification nung nire-refer mo na binibili nyo last year? Ang sabi mo, Cisco 2960 XR24. Hindi yung 926024 port. Ang sinabi ni Colonel Laborte, ang talagang pinoprocure nyo, itong mas mura, itong 926024. Hindi yung 2960 because end of sale na nga yun. Hindi na available.
Wala tayo. Generic lang kasi po, sir, yung
Colonel Laborte, si Colonel Laborte is a
Yes,
certified Cisco systems
Yes,
specialist, by the way. Colonel Laborte, can you respond to that?
Ma'am,
Yes, sir. Generic po yung nilalagay natin.
Colonel Laborte, kindly respond. Generic daw yan.
Hindi po, sir, kasi ang base model po ng 2690 is yung 2600. May mga variants po yun. Opo. Yung base model naman ng 9200, ito na po yun, 9200. Maraming variants po ito. May mga fixed link at saka modular uplinks po ito. So, ito po ang binibili natin.
President, nagkamali lang ang basa ko. 9200.
9200 po ang binibili natin, sir. Ayan po, nakapirma po kayo sa Ayan po, na-award naman po eh. May name of company na awarded siya.
Aragona, and yet sinasabi nyo, niloloko nyo kami, iba yung pinapresent nyo sa amin, binibili nyo, and yet you have your signature affixed here.
Hindi po, sir.
Ang hindi, maliwanag na nga.
Opo. Yung specification po lagi nasa generic specifications po siya. Yung pag nilalagay namin sa terms of reference.
I will not debate with you because kaya nga nandito yung ibang resource person who is an IT expert in the person of Colonel Borte, so he can respond to your assertion. So, Colonel Borte.
Opo, sir. Magkaiba po kasi yung base model dyan, sir. So, meron magkakapareho sila ng specs. Pero kaya po, obsolete na po kasi yun eh, yung 2960 XR, 2016 pa po yun eh. So, 46,000 pesos na lang po yun eh, ang halaga nun sa ngayon. Kasi po, yung computer appliance depreciates fast and loses its after-sale support over time. So, ngayon po, mura na yan eh. Kasi malapit na po niya maabot yung kanyang depreciation time period. Nag-average po kasi ng 5 to 8 years yung depreciation na period ng IT appliance. So kung 2016 pa po yan, plus 5, wala na po talaga yan. Mura na po talaga sa market yan. Hindi naman po natin pwedeng bilihin na, kunyari po, bibili tayo ng iPhone 5 ngayon 2020, pero hindi natin siya bibilin nung price ng 2016. Kasi noong 2016, 40,000 pesos po yung iPhone 5. Ngayon, 5,000 pesos na lang. So, it is our duty sa Bids and Awards Committee na tingnan ito. Dapat, sir, sumunod po tayo sa procurement law. The government shall obtain goods and services at lower prices and better terms. So, dapat po competitive bidding. Kasi alam naman po natin na nag-depreciate na eh. So, dapat tumawag tayo po na mas marami supplier. So, kung meron tayo 5 supplier, sir, pababaan po sila ng presyo. Kasi alam naman ng 5 supplier na yun na 5,000 pesos na lang, kunwari po yung presyo. So, magbibid po sila ng mas mataas ng konti. But hindi na po sa original price kasi lugi naman po ang gobyerno.
Besides Colonel Laborte and Miss Aragona, hindi naman papayagan ng COA kung obsolete ang bibili nyo.
Yes, sir.
Hindi lulusot yun eh. Now, my question, Miss Aragona, no, para maayos natin at baka maipit kayo eh. Are you an IT expert?
I'm an IT, but yung technical details, kaya ko po pinatawag si Alex. So, yung
So yung mga tao ninyo nagbibigay sa inyo ng mga impormasyon na yan. Pati yung in-announce nyo kanina, binigay din ng mga tao ninyo sa iyo. Di po ba?
yes po, yung information and the data. Kaya ang understanding is comparable or nearest dun po dun sa catalyst.
So pati yung mga models yan at ang explanation na binibigay sa inyo at sinasabi ninyo rito sa amin ay sinabi ng mga tauhan ninyo, ano? Hindi galing sa inyo yan, ano? Okay. Thank you, Senator Lasso.
So how do we resolve this?
Siguro po an improvement to the bidding process, how we get the canvas prices, and maybe the
Yeah,
specs
but
later.
between 62,000 and 320,000, yung final bid price, medyo napakalaga ng diferensya. Kasi sabi ni Gabuya last time, Mr. Gabuya, kasi may mga add-ons like warranty. Eh kung ganun kalaki ang diferensya, bumili na lang uli ng bago, kalimutan na yung warranty. Kasi mas mura kung bibili ng bago kaysa bilhin yung warranty. And sabi niya, delivery. Eh saan pa manggagaling yan? Di ba within NCR lang yan? Colonel Borte, can you help out and give us more details on this issue?
Opo, sir. Yung delivery expenses ko, wala na po. Kasi po, ang end user po niyan is pro NCR. Dito lang po sa Metro Manila yan. Tapos, sir, yung training expenses, sir, yung training po kasi ng Cisco, hindi po basta-basta ginaganap yan sa ordinaryo lang na training center. Sa Cisco Certified Accredited School po yan, sir. Institutions. So, matagal po ang training niyan at mahal po. So, kung ipapa-shoulder po yan sa mga supplier, magiging parang it's a form of bribe para sa akin. Kasi dapat po, bago ka pumasok sa isang opisina na as information technology person, marunong ka na. Hindi yung doon ka pala mag-aaral sa loob.
Mr. Aragona.
So yung training, Sir Val, yung training kasi that's...
Would you like Mr. Gabuya to respond on your behalf?
Yes, sir.
Sige,
Pwede po.
Mr. President, may we call Mr. Gabuya? Anyway, last time he also testified.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, can you respond to Colonel Aborte's statement?
Yes, sir. Sir, ang specifications po kasi natin, sir, di ba, generic. Based doon sa specifications po natin, meron pong nakalagay na 10 gig na specification. 10 gig na dalawang 10 gig port. So based po doon sa itprice.com, kung i-compare po natin ay I think 7,000 plus US dollars. So pwede po makita. Yung po nakalagay dito na ipinopost ninyo, yan na po yung proposal na po ng ano yan, ng mga supplier. Kasi may nakalagay dyan.
Yes,
Cisco
but
Catalyst
proposal ng
22.
suppliers, hindi man lang kayo nag-due diligence at in-alert na nga ni Colonel Laborte, si General De Villa, pati si General Morales, na sobrang overpriced. Kasi chinek niya na nga sa Cisco mismo. Chinek niya doon sa supplier sa 62,000, over $1,000. And pinapresyo niya ng 320,000. Kaya nga na-abort yan, di ba?
Yes
And
po.
are you insisting that hindi overpriced yan?
Hindi po kasi sa comparable, sir.
Kaya ang pinaprocure nyo mismo, kino-compare mo sa ibang item, XR. Ang binibili ninyo, yung 9,200. Hindi ba palusot yung ginagawa mo?
Hindi po palusot, sir. Kasi ang kino-compare ko po dun sa specifications po na nakalagay po doon sa atin. Sa standard specifications po kasi wala pong nakalagay na brand. So, based dun sa standard specifications, ang pag tinignan po sa IT price, ang lumalabas po na price is 7,000 plus US dollars. So, kapag i-compare po naman to yung sinerge po ni Colonel Laborte is 9,200, yung comparable price po niya is 4,200. Comparable specifications is 4,200 US dollars, which is 210,000 plus. So, plus, chinek natin yung mga warranty. So, yun po yung gusto ko lang po i-compare, yung 9,200 na bago, saka yung specifications po ng PhilHealth. Ngayon, ang base po doon sa nag-gather kong details doon sa end user, sa pro-NCR namin, dumaan po yan sa competitive bidding. Nag-propose po yung tatlong suppliers at 348 po ang pinakamurang. So yun po yung ABC na kinandak po nila.
Anong pinropose ng with permission of Senator Lacson? Anong binid ng tatlong supplier? Yung 9,200?
Ay, ang...
President, if I'll be allowed. This contract had passed to OCLC, and there's a tracking that we can show if the Senate would.
Teka muna, sagutin niyo muna yung tanong ko. Yung tatlong nag-bid, ano yung binid nila na generic? Ano?
It's not generic.
Sabi ni
President. It's
generic
stated here, the abstract of canvas, Cisco 2960-X POE.
2960.
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, that's different from the 9,200 na binabanggit kanina.
That's from one of the suppliers who submitted their price quotation, Mr. President.
The three suppliers were proposing the same unit.
Only one supplier indicated the Cisco 2960-X
The other one?
POA. The two other suppliers and the winning suppliers did not put specific model as regards to the bidded IT.
Ano binibid nila o wala sila nilagay na model?
Apparently, Mr. President, merong collusion dito sa bidding.
Sa bidding.
And si Colonel Laborte can elaborate on what's going on inside PhilHealth when they procure IT equipment. Laging yun na lang nananalo, tapos ang diferensya ng kanilang mga price sa bidding, ang liliit. Parang, Colonel Laborte is still there?
Opo, sir. Opo. Yes, sir. I noticed, sir, mula nung dumating ako sa PhilHealth po, i-review ko po lahat ng mga contracts. Pati mga previous contracts po ng IT projects ng 2018 and 2019, nakikita ko po sir na palagi na lang na-award as single calculated bid. Wala po akong nakita na awarded to lowest bidder sir eh. Kung meron man siguro sa isang taong kong stay po, iisa lang ang nakita ko na awarded as lowest bidder. So nakakapagtaka po ito kasi napakarami pong IT projects. Tapos tuwing bidding proper, isa lang pong supplier ang dumadating. So automatic na-award sa kanya as single calculated bid. Tapos sir, since itong mga binibili sir is nag-depreciate na rin yung kanyang price sa market. Kasi sir, medyo mabagal din ang procurement or talaga sinasadyang bagalan sir, nagdi-depreciate siya. Pero ang bid price niya is palaging 99% of the ABC. Minsan sir, 1,000 pesos lang yung diferensya pero ang ABC is 40 million. So nakakapagtaka po sir.
Yes, okay. Senator Tolentino.
Mr. Chair, perhaps to abbreviate this, may we just request through a issuance of an appropriate subpoena duces tecum that appropriate e-back, back, and pre-bid documents be submitted to this committee to enable us to scrutinize the same.
All right. Yes. Thank you. There is a motion by by Senator Tolentino to that effect. There's no objection. The Secretariat is hereby directed to issue a subpoena duces tecum for those documents. All right. So again, Attorney Labe, to continue before we give it back to Senator Lacson. Ang binid nila nung mga tatlo, isa lang ang nagbid na binibid yung obsolete. Tapos yung dalawa walang sinabing specific na unit.
Correction po sir, yung tatlo po pala kasi hiwa-hiwalay po ito sir eh. So yung tatlong model po ay pare-pareho naman yung binibid nila. Yung unang bidder, ganun din po, Cisco 2960-X POE na meron siyang 348,000 na presyo. The other one is Cisco Catalyst 2960 X24 gig EPOE. Meron siyang 347,084. Saka yung pangatlo po ay Cisco Catalyst 2960-X24, same model, 348,000 din. Ito po kasi sir, na document na to ay galing po sa NCR. Ito po yung hinanap namin isa sa mga hinanap namin nung dumating po tong document sa OCLC. At I can recall na binalik po namin to sa NCR kasi wala po tong legal certification sir. Nung nagkaroon na po ng legal certification, kaya na-forward po kay General De Villa, hindi pa po nasabi sa akin ni Colonel Laborte na overpriced po ito sir kasi earlier pa po ito eh. Ito lang po kasi lately nung nagkagulo sila sa ISS pre-ICT na iniisa-isa na po namin yung pricing sir.
What did you find out?
And I found out from Colonel Laborte na overpriced daw po. Kasi siya po yung nakakaalam dito sir.
So, who will be accountable? Of course, na-abort ito, pero nagkaroon ng award eh. Hindi nga lang natuloy, but who will be made accountable? Dahil within PhilHealth, alam nyo mismo, being the legal counsel, you are now concluding na overpriced talaga. So, who will be made liable for the attempted overpricing of procurement? Somebody must be held liable. Hindi lang overpriced, grossly overpriced. Sana kung depresya natin dito 10,000. I'm not saying it's right, pero hindi ganun ang pag-uusapan eh. It's over, I think, 5,000%. Kasi 320 over 62. Anyway, so much for that. There's already a motion which was adopted. Na isabit na lang yung lahat ng records. Anyway, we also have the records eh. Na yung collusion among bidders masyadong wag na apparent, masyadong obvious as testified to by Colonel Laborte. Moving on, Mr. President, yung bid brown, as mentioned during last Tuesday's hearing, alam mo, Attorney De Rosario, yung emotive approach mo na intindihin din natin yung mga dialysis patients, hindi naman kami nagdi-disagree eh. But hindi sa under IRM, hindi doon sa under Circular 0007 because that's COVID-19 specific. Meron kayo ibang programa para sa ibang diseases, para sa ibang mga healthcare providers. Huwag niyong ihalo dito. At huwag gamitin yung emotion, appeal to emotion, na bakit kami, malupit kami senador, na hindi namin tinitingnan din yung plight ng mga COVID, ng non-COVID patients. Now, let me proceed. Yung B. Brown, we tried to get from the securities. Kasi by the way, B. Brown, for the, para ma-refresh lang yung memory natin, ito yung pinakamalaking, halos pinakamalaking nakuhang bayad sa IRM. Naka 45 million sila out of 226. And the highest release, 15 million pesos doon sa Tondo, Manila. Yung branch doon. Pinapuntahan ko ito actually. Eh meron ditong, I will show you the photographs. Ayan, no? Wala kang makita dyan na isolation area. Tapos nagpapunta rin ako ng tao doon. Bago sila magpa-dialysis, i-refer ka muna sa Gat Andres Bonifacio Medical Center or hospital, no? Para magpa-swab test muna ron. Dahil wala silang capability na mag-conduct ng swab test para sa COVID patients. Now, meron doong may notice sila sa mga pasyente nila na hindi, well exempted yung, ito nakalagay, exemption from the 45-day benefit limit and single period confinement for admission. Ito yung nandun sa Circular 007. Pero sabi niya, pagka lumampas na sa 90-day limit, sisingilin pa rin yung pasyente. Eh binayaran nyo yung, in-advance nyo pa yung bayad sa B. Brown. Naniningil din pala sa mga dialysis patients. Kasi meron silang limit. So, saan napunta yung pera nyong ibinibigay? Now, going back to the Securities and Exchange Commission, ang nakuha namin dito, B. Brown Medical Supplies Incorporated. No, wala kami makita na B. Brown Abitum. And then we have now a certification from the SEC. This is to certify that the records of the Commission do not show the registration of B. Brown Abitum Dialysis Incorporated as a corporation, partnership, or one-person corporation. Ang meron lang, hindi pa kayo nag-due diligence, bayad kayo ng bayad, milyon-milyon piso. Wala man lang kayong konting, sabi kaya namin in a matter of 1-2 hours, nakakuha kami ng ganito. Eh kayo nagre-release ng pera. Hindi nyo man lang ginagawa yung due diligence. 45, and now, pursuing there's another issue involving B. Brown, and this was mentioned already by Attorney Keith, yung balanga. Kung hindi nagreklamo yung B. Brown, and I cannot
kasi yung budget. Oo. Bigat. Oo. Ito. Ay.
I cannot get an explanation kung nagreklamo. Kasi yung account number, kindly flash yung account number. We have the account number na binayaran ninyo na ang conclusion nyo niya sa legal department, inadvertence, parang nakaligtaan lang, pero 11 transactions. And ang releasing region 2. Okay? Paano itong nalipat sa Region 3? Sa Balanga, in the amount of 9.7 million pesos. 11 times. Kanino napunta yung pera? Of course, nabalik ito kasi binayaran, inirelease na ng Balanga. But in the meantime, that Attorney Keith was directed, was ordered by Colonel Laborte, being the HEA, and siya yung nasa anti-fraud. Nag-conduct siya ng investigation at yun yung kanya tinestify kanina. Tapos, anong naging parusa doon sa inimbestigahan nila when you took over the investigation? Simple neglect of duty. You were about to lose 9.7 million, simple neglect of duty, and then 11 times nagkaroon ng transaction. Hindi pwedeng systems error. Kasi nakakaalam lang ng password yan, kasi online ito, di ba? Attorney Keith, kindly elaborate kasi kayo mas nakakaalam, or si Colonel Laborte for that matter. Kasi kayong dalawa naman nag-imbestiga rito, and you were so disappointed that yung